Morning dew sparkled across the endless wheat fields of Verdant Prime as 3,000 human colonists began another ordinary day. The planet looked peaceful from space, just one more farming world among hundreds scattered across the galaxy's outer rim. Nobody would guess that beneath the golden grain grew something that would change the course of galactic history forever. Tom Richards walked through the main street of New Haven Settlement, nodding to farmers heading out to their fields. As governor of this remote colony, he dealt mostly with crop reports and equipment requests. The biggest excitement in recent months had been debating whether to plant more corn or wheat in the eastern valleys. Life moved slowly here, exactly as Earth Command had intended when they established the colony 5 years ago. What Tom didn't know was that Verdant Prime had been chosen for reasons far beyond its fertile soil. Deep beneath the farmland lay deposits of quantum reactive crystals, rare minerals that could amplify energy in ways that made military scientists nervous. The original survey teams had classified this information at the highest levels, then quietly sent farmers to settle the world while keeping its true value secret. Dr. Amy Foster loved her work in the Agricultural Research Center, a modest building that looked like any other farm facility. Her team studied soil samples and plant genetics, developing new ways to increase crop yields. 3 years ago, they had made an incredible discovery when trace amounts of local crystal dust mixed with fertilizer produced wheat that grew twice as fast as normal. The crystals seemed to respond to electromagnetic fields, almost like they were alive. Amy's research notes filled dozens of computers as she documented how the crystals could be cultivated and grown like plants themselves. When exposed to specific radio frequencies, they formed networks underground that connected across vast distances. Her team thought they had revolutionized farming by creating fields that could communicate with each other, sharing nutrients and water through crystal pathways that stretched for kilometers. The head of colony security, Captain Roy Mitchell, maintained the peaceful appearance of Verdant Prime while overseeing installations that most colonists never saw. Hidden beneath the wheat fields lay sophisticated monitoring equipment that tracked crystal growth patterns. The farmers used modified tractors and harvesters that contained computer systems powerful enough to run a battleship. Though they believed the technology simply helped with precision agriculture, Roy knew more than most about the colony's true purpose, but even he didn't understand the full scope of what they had built. Earth Command had sent engineers disguised as agricultural specialists, who spent 5 years carefully positioning quantum resonance arrays throughout the farmland. The colonists thought they were installing irrigation systems and soil sensors, never realizing they were creating the most powerful weapon platform in human space. The quantum crystals responded to the arrays by growing into predetermined patterns, forming a network that spanned the entire planet. Each crystal farm acted as both amplifier and focusing lens for energies that could theoretically crack a moon in half. The system remained dormant, waiting for activation codes that existed only in heavily encrypted files aboard Earth's most secure military computers. As Tom finished his morning walk, he noticed unusual activity at the communications center. Technicians hurried between antenna arrays and emergency lights blinked on several monitoring stations. The daily status report from Earth Command was 3 hours overdue, and attempts to contact other colonies in the sector had failed. Something was happening in the larger galaxy, something that might soon reach their peaceful farming world. The colonists went about their normal routines, tending crops and maintaining equipment while remaining unaware that war was coming. The Altarian hegemony had begun mobilizing the largest fleet in galactic history, intending to crush human expansion once and for all. Military analysts predicted the enemy would advance through this sector within days, treating farming colonies like Verdant Prime as minor obstacles to be swept aside without slowing their advance. Amy Foster checked her latest crystal growth readings, noting unusual resonance patterns that suggested the planetary network was becoming more active. The crystals were responding to electromagnetic signals from space, faint traces of military communications that indicated large fleets moving between star systems. Her agricultural monitoring systems were accidentally detecting the radio signatures of approaching warships, though she interpreted the data as unusual solar activity. Captain Mitchell received coded transmissions that made his blood run cold as he read intelligence reports about Altarian battle groups numbering in the thousands. The enemy had superiority in ships, weapons, and troops that made conventional defense impossible. Earth Command was activating contingency plans across human space, including protocols for Verdant Prime that would transform their peaceful farming colony into something the galaxy had never seen before. The quantum crystal network they had spent 5 years growing was about to reveal its true purpose as a planetary defense system capable of reaching across space itself. The farmers who had planted and tended these fields had unknowingly created the ultimate weapon, one disguised so perfectly that even they believed it was nothing more than advanced agriculture. In the coming days, 3,000 colonists would discover that their quiet farming world was humanity's last desperate gambit to prove that even peaceful settlements could exact a price too terrible for any aggressor to pay. Tom Richards stood in his office that evening, watching the sunset paint the wheat fields gold while reading classified files that revealed everything he thought he knew about Verdant Prime was wrong. The colony's true purpose was about to be tested, and the results would either save human civilization or doom it to extinction. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their warships, but in their ability to hide terrible power behind the most innocent appearances. Fleet Admiral Knox studied the tactical displays aboard his flagship Defiance while trying not to show the fear that gnawed at his stomach. 2,000 enemy warships moved through space in perfect formation, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. The Altarian hegemony had committed their entire military to this offensive, intending to end humanity's expansion across the galaxy through overwhelming force. The enemy had chosen their moment carefully, striking when most human fleets were scattered across dozens of systems on patrol or escort duty. Intelligence suggested their ultimate target was Earth itself, but they planned to destroy every human colony along the way to demonstrate their power. Verdant Prime lay directly in their path, a farming world with no defenses and 3,000 civilian colonists, who had no idea death was approaching. Knox commanded the largest human force that could be assembled on short notice, barely 300 ships against an enemy that outnumbered them 7-1. His captains were good, their crews well-trained, but mathematics didn't lie about their chances in a direct confrontation. The best they could hope for was to slow the Altarian advance and buy time for Earth to organize better defenses. General Vorik commanded the Altarian invasion from his flagship Dominion's Edge, a massive dreadnought that carried its own fighter squadrons and manufacturing facilities. He had spent decades conquering lesser species across the galaxy, and humans represented just another weak civilization that needed to be crushed before they could become a real threat. His fleet would sweep through human space like a cleansing fire, leaving only debris and warnings for other species who might challenge Altarian supremacy. The general took particular satisfaction in targeting human farming colonies because they represented everything he despised about their expansion. While proud warrior races like the Altarians conquered worlds through strength and honor, humans spread like weeds by planting crops and building settlements wherever they found empty soil. Their peaceful approach to colonization disgusted him, and he would enjoy watching their agricultural worlds burn back on Verdant Prime. Emergency sirens wailed across New Haven settlement as Governor Richards activated defense protocols that most colonists didn't know existed. Families grabbed essential belongings and hurried toward underground shelters that had been disguised as storage facilities and equipment buildings. The colonists had practiced these drills monthly, believing they were preparing for natural disasters like asteroid impacts or solar storms. Dr. Amy Foster received urgent orders to report to the Agricultural Research Center, where she found her facility transformed into something she barely recognized. Computer screens displayed targeting solutions and energy calculations instead of soil analysis and crop rotation schedules. Her research team stood bewildered as technicians activated systems they had never seen before, revealing that their Agricultural equipment was part of a weapons network spanning the entire planet. Captain Mitchell gathered the colony's technical staff in an underground command center that officially didn't exist in any colonial records. Banks of sophisticated computers hummed to life, displaying real-time data from the quantum crystal network they had spent 5 years growing. The resonance arrays hidden beneath the farmland revealed their true purpose as components of the most powerful directed energy weapon ever, constructed by human science. Roy explained the situation with military precision while trying to keep panic from spreading among the civilian technicians. The approaching Altarian fleet represented an existential threat to human civilization, and Verdant Prime had been secretly designated as humanity's last line of defense. The quantum crystals they had cultivated were not just agricultural enhancers, but weapons-grade amplifiers capable of channeling planetary-scale energies across interstellar distances. Amy stared at readouts showing crystal resonance patterns across continents as the true scope of their work became clear. For 3 years, she had been growing what she thought were agricultural improvements, never realizing that each crystal farm was positioned according to military specifications. The electromagnetic frequencies they used to encourage crystal growth were actually fine-tuning a weapon system that could theoretically destroy entire fleets. The colonists worked frantically to prepare defenses while monitoring long-range sensors that tracked the Altarian approach. Enemy scouts had already entered the system, reporting back to their main fleet about the defenseless farming world ahead. The aliens saw exactly what they expected to see: wheat fields, irrigation systems, and agricultural buildings that posed no military threat whatsoever. Governor Richards stood in the command center, watching displays that showed both the approaching enemy fleet and the quantum crystal network responding to activation sequences. The crystals were awakening after 5 years of dormancy, their resonance patterns shifting from agricultural mode to something far more dangerous. Energy readings climbed steadily as the planetary weapon system prepared to demonstrate why Earth Command had chosen this particular world for humanity's most desperate gambit. The irony was not lost on him that their salvation lay hidden beneath the very farmland the Altarians intended to destroy. 3,000 colonists had spent years unknowingly tending the galaxy's most powerful weapon while believing they were simply growing food. The enemy would discover too late that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their ability to make any tool serve multiple purposes when survival was at stake. As the Altarian fleet moved into attack position, quantum energies began building in crystal networks beneath fields of golden wheat. The peaceful farming colony was about to reveal its true nature, and the galaxy would never again underestimate what humans could accomplish when they appeared to be doing nothing more threatening than growing crops. Space around Verdant Prime filled with Altarian warships as 2,000 vessels dropped out of hyperspace in perfect battle formation. The massive fleet blocked out entire starfields, their hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators that had conquered 17 different species. General Vorik smiled as he surveyed the defenseless farming world below, preparing to deliver the standard surrender demand before beginning bombardment operations. The communication channel crackled to life as Governor Richards responded to the Altarian ultimatum with words that would echo through military academies for centuries. General Vorik, you have 10 minutes to withdraw your forces from this system. This is your only warning. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving 2,000 alien commanders stunned by the audacity of a farming colony threatening the largest fleet in galactic history. Vorik's laughter boomed across the fleet communication networks as his ships moved into bombardment formation. The human settlement below looked exactly as intelligence had described: agricultural buildings, grain silos, and irrigation systems that posed no threat to anyone. His sensors detected no orbital platforms, no hidden missile batteries, nothing but farmers who apparently believed they could intimidate the Altarian Empire with empty threats. In the command center beneath New Haven settlement, Captain Mitchell initiated firing sequences that transformed 5 years of careful preparation into the most devastating 10 minutes of galactic warfare ever recorded. The quantum crystal network spanning Verdant Prime's continents began resonating at frequencies that made reality itself seem to vibrate. Energy readings climbed beyond anything in human scientific records as planetary geology became a weapon system. Dr. Amy Foster watched in amazement as her agricultural monitoring systems revealed their true purpose as targeting computers for a weapon that defied comprehension. The crystal farms she had tended so carefully were focusing cosmic energies through pathways that stretched across the planet's entire surface. Each wheat field, corn plantation, and vegetable garden served as both camouflage and component for humanity's most desperate gambit. The Altarian fleet began its attack, run as energy signatures from the planet below spiked beyond their instruments. Ability to measure? General Vorik dismissed the readings as sensor malfunctions caused by some unknown mineral in the planetary crust. His intelligence had confirmed this was nothing but a farming colony, and no agricultural world could threaten ships designed to crack fortress worlds. Golden light erupted from seemingly ordinary farmland as quantum energies found focus through crystal networks that had grown undetected for half a decade. The wheat fields themselves became launching points for coherent energy beams that reached across space with impossible precision. What looked like irrigation equipment revealed itself as targeting systems that could track individual ships among thousands while calculating intercept courses that accounted for relativistic effects. The first Altarian ships died before their crews could even understand what was happening. Defensive shields rated to withstand concentrated bombardment from entire battle groups simply ceased to exist as the energy beams touched them. Massive dreadnoughts that had conquered star systems vanished in bursts of light that could be seen from neighboring solar systems. The farming colony was systematically erasing the largest fleet in hegemony history. General Vorik's flagship managed to survive the initial barrage only because its position at the fleet's center provided momentary protection from the ships dying around it. His communications officer screamed damage reports as vessel after vessel disappeared from tactical displays. The humans had somehow transformed an entire planet into a weapon that made their most advanced technology look like primitive tools. Amy Foster monitored crystal resonance patterns as the planetary network channeled energies that should have torn the world apart. Instead, the crystals absorbed and redirected the massive forces with precision that suggested they were not just following programming but actively adapting to target the most threatening ships first. The agricultural improvements they had developed were revealing intelligence that bordered on artificial consciousness. The battle lasted exactly 9 minutes and 43 seconds, though every survivor would swear it felt like hours of continuous destruction. Ship after ship vanished in explosions of light as the quantum crystals beneath Verdant Prime's farmland proved that humanity's most innocent-looking colonies could exact terrible prices from any aggressor. The debris field stretched across millions of cubic kilometers, marking where the pride of the Altarian Empire had met its end. Governor Richards watched the tactical displays as the last enemy vessels fled the system, their commanders broadcasting surrender frequencies on every communication channel they could access. General Vorik's final transmission before his flagship joined the cosmic debris field consisted of a single word in the Altarian language that roughly translated to impossible. The general had discovered, too late, that humans excelled at making the impossible look routine. The quantum crystal network powered down to agricultural mode, as emergency systems prevented planetary destruction from the massive energies they had channeled. Within minutes, the targeting systems disguised themselves as irrigation equipment while the focusing arrays returned to their cover identities as soil enhancement networks. Verdant Prime looked exactly as peaceful as it had before 2,000 warships had tried to destroy it. Captain Mitchell secured the command center while colony technicians returned to their normal duties, many still stunned by discovering their farming equipment was part of the most powerful weapon in known space. The colonists would continue growing crops above the quantum crystal network, tending fields that had just saved human civilization, while maintaining the illusion that they were nothing more than peaceful farmers on a remote agricultural world. The 10-minute war was over, but its consequences would reshape the balance of power across the entire galaxy. News traveled faster than light across the galactic communication networks as reports of Verdant Prime's impossible victory reached every major civilization within hours. A farming colony had eliminated the largest naval force in Altarian history, using weapons that apparently grew in fields alongside vegetables. Military analysts throughout known space scrambled to recalculate their threat assessments, while politicians realized that humanity had just demonstrated technological capabilities beyond current understanding of physics. The Centauri Republics Defense Council convened an emergency session, projecting holographic displays of the battle's aftermath that left their military commanders speechless. The debris field where the Altarian fleet had died showed none of the radiation signatures typical of conventional weapons, suggesting the humans had used some form of directed energy system that operated on principles completely unknown to galactic science. 2,000 warships had simply ceased to exist in less than 10 minutes. Ambassador Kate Sullivan found herself fielding communication requests from dozens of species that had previously dismissed humanity as irrelevant to galactic politics. The same alien civilizations that had refused to acknowledge human diplomatic overtures for decades suddenly wanted immediate meetings to discuss trade agreements, defense pacts, and technology sharing arrangements. The battle had transformed humanity from a minor colonial power into a potential threat that demanded careful management on Earth. The Human Colonial Administration discovered that their applications for Galactic Council membership, rejected repeatedly for the past 30 years, had suddenly been approved with unprecedented speed. The Council not only offered immediate full membership but suggested permanent Security Council representation with veto power over military interventions. Species that had never bothered to learn human names were now studying Earth's political structure with intense interest. Governor Richards stood once again in his observation tower, watching Dr. Amy Foster's agricultural teams return to their normal routines as if nothing had happened. The quantum crystal arrays had powered down to baseline agricultural functions, their targeting systems disguised once more as irrigation equipment and soil enhancement networks. The secret of Verdant Prime's defensive capabilities remained classified, at levels so high that most government officials would never learn of their existence. The irony disturbed him more than the power they had unleashed, because every human agricultural colony in the galaxy had suddenly become a potential strategic asset of incalculable value. Military planners throughout known space were now examining farming worlds with suspicion, wondering what other surprises might be hidden beneath innocent-looking grain fields. The Altarians had attacked what they thought was humanity's weakness, only to discover it represented their greatest strength. Fleet Admiral Knox received new orders that reflected humanity's changed status in galactic politics, as his remaining ships were reassigned from desperate defense missions to escort duties for diplomatic vessels. The same military leaders who had written off human space as indefensible were now requesting detailed briefings about human defensive capabilities and asking pointed questions about how many other farming colonies might possess similar systems. The Altarian hegemony sued for peace within hours of losing their primary fleet, offering territorial concessions and reparations that would have been unthinkable before Verdant Prime rewrote the rules of interstellar warfare. Their remaining forces pulled back to defensive positions around their core worlds while their government issued formal apologies for their unprovoked aggression against human civilian populations. The proud warrior race had learned humility. From farmers, Amy Foster published research papers on revolutionary agricultural techniques that mentioned quantum crystal cultivation only in passing, as if growing planet-spanning weapon networks was simply an interesting side effect of improved farming methods. Her scientific journals reached agricultural researchers across the galaxy, many of whom began experimenting with similar crystal enhancement techniques while remaining unaware of their military applications. Captain Mitchell maintained his cover as colony security chief while overseeing regular visits from military analysts, xenobiologists, and intelligence officers who all wanted to understand how humanity had developed such devastating technology while maintaining perfect operational security. The truth was simpler than they imagined. Humans had always excelled at making tools serve multiple purposes, and the line between creating life and ending it had never been as distinct as other species preferred to believe. The Galactic Council's emergency session addressed what historians were already calling the most significant shift in interstellar power balance since the formation of the current galactic order. Traditional military doctrine had become obsolete overnight, as the possibility that any human agricultural world might conceal planetary-scale weapons made conventional invasion strategies impossibly risky. The age of massive fleet engagements was ending before it had truly begun. Trade delegations arrived at human colonies throughout the galaxy, ostensibly seeking agricultural products but actually conducting careful intelligence gathering about defensive installations. They found exactly what they expected to see: farmers tending crops, engineers maintaining irrigation systems, and families living peaceful lives on frontier worlds. The weapons that had destroyed the Altarian fleet remained perfectly camouflaged as the infrastructure of civilization itself. New protocols emerged for interstellar relations as species learned to approach human space with diplomatic caution rather than military arrogance. The farming colony that had ended a galactic war in under 10 minutes became a legend that kept potential aggressors awake at night, wondering what other surprises might be hidden behind humanity's seemingly innocent expansion across the stars. The galaxy had discovered that humans were dangerous not because they were warriors, but because they could transform any peaceful endeavor into an instrument of survival when circumstances demanded it. Every grain shipment from human colonies now carried subtle implications about the power that grew beneath those fields, and every agricultural report contained reminders that humanity's true strength lay not in their weapons, but in their ability to make any tool serve the cause of protecting their people when threatened. 6 months after the Battle of Verdant Prime, the galaxy had settled into a new reality where humanity occupied a position of respect that would have been impossible to imagine before a farming colony rewrote the fundamental rules of interstellar warfare. The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from hundreds of species gathered to formalize peace accords that acknowledged human defensive capabilities, while carefully avoiding any direct mention of how those capabilities had been demonstrated. Ambassador Kate Sullivan addressed the assembled delegations with quiet confidence, knowing that every word she spoke carried the implicit backing of weapon systems that remained deliberately unspecified in all official documents. The formal treaties granted humanity a sphere of influence encompassing hundreds of star systems while establishing the principle that any attack on human civilian populations would be considered an act of war against Earth itself, backed by defensive measures that no one wanted to test. The Altarian delegation signed the accords with visible reluctance, their once proud empire reduced to offering reparations and territorial concessions that would fund human expansion for decades. General Vorik's successor, Admiral Nexus, had spent months studying tactical recordings of the battle that destroyed their fleet, only to conclude that human defensive technology operated on principles that Altarian science could not comprehend. Or counter-trade relationships flourished as species throughout the galaxy sought access to human agricultural products, though everyone understood the real motivation behind their interest. Grain shipments from human colonies commanded premium prices not because of superior nutrition, but because they carried subtle reminders about the power that grew beneath those innocent-looking fields. Every cargo vessel that left human space served as a diplomatic message about the consequences of threatening peaceful farmers. Dr. Amy Foster continued her research into quantum crystal cultivation while maintaining careful silence about the military applications of her work. Her published papers revolutionized agricultural science across dozens of worlds as species attempted to replicate human farming techniques, never realizing they were experimenting with the components of planetary defense systems. The crystals required specific electromagnetic frequencies and genetic templates that remained classified Earth secrets, ensuring that only human colonies could access their full potential. Back on Verdant Prime, life had returned to its peaceful rhythms as 3,000 colonists went about their daily routines above the most powerful weapon platform in known space. Children played in parks built over quantum resonance arrays, families shopped in markets supplied by farms that doubled as targeting systems, and everyone maintained the illusion that their world was nothing more than an agricultural settlement that happened to be very good at growing crops. Governor Richards received regular briefings about galactic politics while managing colony affairs that seemed mundane compared to the hidden purpose of their settlement. Crop rotation schedules took on strategic importance when the fields in question were components of a weapon system capable of destroying entire fleets, though the farmers who worked those fields remained blissfully unaware of their true significance. The colonists' ignorance was their greatest protection, ensuring that no amount of interrogation could reveal secrets they didn't know existed. Captain Mitchell oversaw a security apparatus that extended far beyond normal colonial defense requirements, monitoring not just external threats but also ensuring that Verdant Prime's secret remained protected. Intelligence analysts visited regularly under cover of agricultural inspectors, studying how humanity had managed to hide such devastating technology for 5 years without a single security breach. The answer lay in compartmentalization so complete that even the weapons operators believed they were farmers. The quantum crystal network continued, growing beneath the farmland, its patterns guided by algorithms that balanced agricultural productivity with military effectiveness. Each harvest season brought improvements to both crop yields and defensive capabilities as the living crystal matrices evolved according to human design parameters. Verdant Prime was becoming more powerful with each passing year while appearing increasingly peaceful to external observers. Other human colonies began implementing similar dual-purpose infrastructure projects, though none would match Verdant Prime's scale or capabilities. The galaxy learned to view every human farming world with careful respect, understanding that agricultural settlements might conceal defensive systems ranging from simple orbital platforms to planet-killing superweapons. The uncertainty kept potential aggressors cautious while allowing human expansion to continue under the protection of strategic ambiguity. Diplomatic protocols evolved to accommodate humanity's unique position as the galaxy's newest major power, one that had achieved recognition not through conquest but by demonstrating that their most peaceful-looking settlements could exact terrible prices from any aggressor. Ambassador Sullivan found herself consulted on military matters despite representing a species that had never sought galactic dominance, simply because everyone wanted to avoid accidentally triggering human defensive measures. The legend of the farming colony that ended a galactic war in under 10 minutes spread throughout known space, growing with each retelling until it became a cautionary tale that shaped interstellar relations for generations. Military academies studied the battle as an example of how appearances could deceive, while agricultural colleges unknowingly taught techniques derived from weapons research that had saved human civilization. Years later, as human colonies spread across hundreds of worlds and humanity took its place among the galaxy's great powers, few remembered that their rise had begun with farmers tending quantum crystals in fields of golden wheat. The greatest victory had not been the destruction of the Altarian fleet, but the demonstration that humanity's true strength lay in their ability to make any peaceful endeavor serve the cause of survival when necessity demanded it, ensuring that the galaxy would never again underestimate what humans could accomplish when they appeared to be doing nothing more threatening than growing food for their families.